Thank you for joining me again for another interview. I've got a phenomenal guest on today. We got the man, the myth, the legend, DSP, David Stephen Patterson. Thank you for joining me today, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. It's been a long time in coming. We've been in the same world for a long time. Talked quite a few times, and
Yep,
I think this is. I think many people look at this as history in the making. Not to
absolutely, dude.
much
This is going
myself,
to be
but
fun, man. Thanks for
yeah,
joining me.
the meeting of the
Um,
beards.
yep, meeting of the beards. There you go.
Yeah,
There
the
you go.
beards collide.
So
Wait,
yeah, man, it was good chatting with you beforehand. And yeah, like you said, we've talked a couple of times. I'm just kind of pulling up my phone here. But yeah, man, I just want to kind of get a little bit of history and little background on how you got started in recruiting. Tell your story about the start in recruiting, how you started your own business, and then we'll kind of run from there, man.
yeah, definitely. Well, I started actually back in '97. You won't find that on my LinkedIn, but I actually started working at Labor Ready, so it's a day labor hall, and I my girlfriend at the time ended up being the mother of my second child. She applied for a job for me through a thing called a want ad in the newspaper for you kids nowadays. The newspaper was a print edition of news, which is weird. And she faxed my resume in, got a job at Labor Ready as like a behind the counter, and from there got into search. Moved around a lot. And I worked for Kelly Services for all, managing or staffing a call center. Then moved here to Florida, got into search, started with management recruiters, did insurance recruiting for a while, and then went independent. And I've got a great first deal story as an independent. But went independent in 2004 and started working in the SAP space, and that's and I still work it to this day. And yeah, that's how I got into the business.
Nice, man. Love it. So you can't throw that little I got a good first search story and
Yeah,
not go down that path. So we got to
I
go there.
know. I love telling the story because it shows that people when they want to start their own business or search firm, they overthink it too much. And nowadays you got people have so many resources, and we have like the Facebook groups that we have, and
Hmm.
and online how to start a business and how to do this, and LinkedIn for the recruiting piece of it. So back in 2004, I started my firm. So what happened was I was a pretty good biller with MRI in my office, and I saved up a big chunk of cash. Then I did the thing that most recruiters do. I think about starting my own business, and then I stopped producing because my foot was out the halfway out. I was halfway out the door,
Right.
and so I kind of forced my own hand, and I had to quit. And I decided to get into SAP, and I did out of my house. So here's the deal. So I didn't have a database, didn't have access to any job boards. There was no such thing as LinkedIn, at least for me at the time. And I had $100 laptop used with a screen about like that big, it seemed like. And so anyway, I started, working the phones, et cetera. And I got job orders, started working. And so I just needed to get a deal. I just needed a deal, right? And I had 9 offer turn downs before I closed my first deal as an independent. And
Right.
so, and I thought as the universe gave me a big old you like
Yeah.
you're not cut out for this. And it took 6 months and 9 offers to get a deal. During that time, I had to, and also keep in mind, I didn't know anything. I didn't know what I was doing. I hadn't even incorporated or got a business bank account, right? So I had, which that comes up later. So I had, let me see, I had to hide my car so when I get repossessed. I sold my DVD collection for you kids. DVDs are what we used to watch movies on, and I had a killer DVD collection, and I was totally bummed when I sold that. And actually my CDs too, sold that. I even, I did a lot of things to be able to put food on the table. Closed my first deal with Valero Energy. And it was a 27, no, it was a $28,000 and change deal. It was like a 30% off a 95K salary. So closed the deal, and I'm like, all right, awesome. Let's get that check, because back then they didn't do ACH. It was kids used to get checks in the mail, and so I waited for that check to come after 30 days after the guy starts. But then while I was waiting on that, I realized, oh crap, I need a business bank account. Oh crap, I need to incorporate. So I scratched up enough money to incorporate, and I got my EIN, the whatever number, and
Hmm.
went to my bank. and opened a big account, put like $100 in there, just had some money in there. Got the check in, go to my bank, said, I'd like to deposit this, please. And they said, yeah, we're good. We're going to put like a 2 or 3 week hold on this because this is a brand new bank account. It's, you literally opened up an account a week prior and just incorporated. This looks, and this like a $28,000 check looks fishy. I needed the cash. So I went to a check cashing place called Amscot, which is a, get paid today sort of, sort of thing. And not in a very good part of town. So I take the check from Valero. I go and like, will you cash this? And they called my client, accounts payable, who then had to call HR, which is my contact there, to verify the check was real. That was embarrassing.
Yeah.
They gave me 10 grand in cash. They charged me about $500, and I got like something like 18 grand in like money order or cashier's check or whatever. And then I went, and I was afraid I'd get mugged because it's not a good part of town, and people were seeing me get the cash. I hop in my car, I'm sweating bullets. I don't get mugged. I head back to my bank, and I'm like, here's cash. Will you take cash? and after that, I just started billing, and I built my business there. And that was, so we would have excuses. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, everybody has excuses. I have excuses too. I wasn't even incorporated, and I figured it out and made it happen.
Yep.
And so I think so that was my very first deal as an independent.
Yeah, dude, I love it. And I think you make a great point there. Is like there's everybody's path and journey is different, and being willing to just take the leap. Like you knew what you were going to go after. You knew you were going to make that business happen. Probably wasn't the ideal way that you wanted it to roll. Yeah, but yeah, sticking with it and falling into that. That's good stuff, man. What was kind of the journey for you going from working for somebody else and then, starting your own firm? When did you kind of have that aha moment around, I got to do something different to generate new business? Because I know you're one of the pioneers and leaders of this online marketing space. I mean, when did that kind of click for you?
It's a great question. So there's a couple different stages. I mean, I had my sales game wasn't super nuanced. It was basically a mixture of just pounding cold calls and leaving voicemails, and then sending a corresponding email. And I would just call every decision maker in companies that ran SAP as an ERP system, and I just would pound them. And I would just, and eventually they needed somebody to use, and they'd remember, oh, let me call that David guy or whatever. And that worked pretty well until it didn't. And then in 2009, when the economy crashed, I had to lay off like a dozen recruiters, and I had a multi-million-dollar firm, and they just all crashed. I had lost my house, went through a nasty divorce, bankruptcy, but personal business. So it was pretty nasty. So I picked myself back up and started the Kinetic Group, which is my firm now. Kept it pretty small. Learned how to do like more like higher level search. I like get guys like Jeff K. He helped mentor me. And so so I did that and kind of got better at the search game. But I also at the same time realized that search was a lot of the same the sales training used in search is pretty rudimentary at best. There's not a lot in terms of digital marketing. All this has come a long way since in the last few years, but still it's so relatively rudimentary. And there's a lot of training that, just again, go to any recruiter's group and somebody says, how do I, build my business? And people say, well, get on the phone. And what does it mean? like focus are good, but like, what does it mean? And so it was in 2016 that I ended up kind of starting, or 2015 really, that digital marketing journey. And then 2017, I started implementing it in my firm. 2017, started teaching it. And then ever since I've just been, and it turns out, funny enough, I love recruiting, but I think I love marketing even more. And it turns out I had a passion for and a talent for that. And I just happened to have been in the recruiting space for such a long time. And it just seemed such a perfect fit. So that's how I started, really, was just a lot of just really get my ass kicked in the dirt in that last recession. That started the journey.
Yeah, that's funny, man, because that's similar for me. I mean, I wasn't in the recruiting space at the time. I was working with my pops in the flooring industry. the same thing. We were actually, it's funny, I was laughing when you were talking about that newspaper ad earlier because we were back in 2008, we were in the yellow pages, the #1 spot. Like, that's what everybody used. I don't even know if I haven't seen a book in in years. Right. But yeah, man, it was all through the recession when I figured out the online marketing, the lead generation for my dad's business, and then spun off into this space. So that's interesting that, it's cool how these times of crisis really kind of put you into place to force action a little bit, right? And we're kind of in one of those times right now. What's that?
Oh yeah, but it sucks when you go through it, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
You think it's never going to end. I thought my life was over when I had to lay out. I remember when I laid off my recruiters. I went in the conference room, I brought him in. I just couldn't. I literally went through all my cash reserves. I went down to almost to nothing because I was like, I see you get a deal to turn this around, and nothing would close in 2009. And I had to bring everybody in and just say, I can't. We're done.
Yeah.
We're out. We're done. I couldn't even pay any severance because I used up all the cash, and
right.
That's such a humbling experience. I thought I was I thought like my ego was so big at the time, because at the time I was early 30s,
making money,
had a multi-million-dollar business, bunch of people working for me, and I was just, I was king shit. And then next thing you know, it just all goes away.
Yep. Yeah.
A
lot to learn from that though. And it's cool how you've been able to evolve the business and build it back up to the level you have it now. And I know you're going through another phase of rebuilding it back up again too, based off our previous conversation.
Oh yeah. In fact, for those of you who don't, I've started so the Kinetic Group took a well, I wasn't really focused on it for quite a while because I was working on the digital marketing side. I really fell in love with that, and I just wasn't passionate about placing people. Also placing folks. I had legacy clients who were that were still working with me, but I decided to, as we're building the digital headhunter back up, we're actually building the Kinetic Group up as well. I've made some hires. I've got 2 practice leaders working that business. We've actually expanding that as well. So that's kind of part of it. It's basically the Kinetic Group inside there. They're the internal clients of my marketing company, which I take a more of a day-to-day hand in that. And so for people who want to maybe join that, but they can't be a client, they can come in, work under the Kinetic Group, and also through them be part of SRA, by the way, which is a top 10 retained firm. But also, and so I'm trying to build this thing where no matter where you're at, I've got a place for you, basically.
Awesome, man. Yeah. That's cool. So how do you balance your, you're wearing a lot of hats. I know you're a dad and a spouse, and then you've got these multiple businesses. I mean, what are your kind of tricks to get it all done?
Oh shit, man.
Do you work 24 hours or?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, you know what it is, man. My health has kind of gone a little bit. I used to be just a beast. I mean, I had under 10% body fat, and I was just jacked and squats, and my still was like 515, doing CrossFit, and then I started these businesses, and that went to crap. Chris got a little older, but the one thing though that has helped me out a lot. Well, 2 things really though would be actually 3 things really. Stop drinking during the week. People that not drinking a beer at night is probably one of the best productivity tips you could ever give anybody. You're amazingly so much more productive when you get a good night's sleep and you don't even have a couple beers at night. So that's one. Secondly, was planning my week using Asana. So some sort of project management tool. The getting things done methodology really helped me out a lot. And then getting a virtual assistant. I know you've got a VA, right?
Yep.
VAs are, it's one of those things where, recruiters, they think about VAs, they think about somebody sourcing out of India. Like that's the first thing for the truth. You can have a VA that can quite literally order stuff from Amazon for you. They make reservations for you. Do so many things. All the busy work. Yep. A lot of busy work that just is not. Oh, and also manage your Asana. Like I've got my VA manages my Asana. I don't want to manage it. I just you handle it. You handle my life, because otherwise just crap doesn't get done. So I think those combinations, having that structure with some sort of project management tool like Asana or OmniFocus, virtual assistant, and then cutting out drinking, get a good night's sleep. That's
Yep.
the basics right there, you know?
Yep. Love it. That's cool, man. I use the sauna too. And that's my assistant's the same thing. I mean, she just runs, I stuff tasks show up in there and yeah, man, that's good advice. I don't know if I'm adopting the Monday through Friday drinking now. I've run the same thing. I stopped drinking Monday through Friday a while ago, but it definitely helps, man. And I focus on the sleep. That's the big one for me.
Sleep's the big one. Well, I will say I don't focus. I'm not 100% on that. I still have a few goal ones every now and then during the week. But I will say even then, I do make it a point. Come 9 o'clock, I'm thinking I need to start getting to bed. It's getting late. It's like 9:30. I'm like, oh, it's all hours. Man, I used to party till 3 o'clock in the morning and go to work the next day. And now like 9:30, I'm thinking I need to get to bed.
And kids change that. I know you've got a younger one like I do, and you're owned by them.
but at the same time, but you feel so much better. Like when I wake up in the morning, man, I feel great.
Right.
And I used to drag myself out of bed. Even when I was like a beast, when I was like super in shape and working out, I was working out a lot, but I was relatively healthy. I smoked and I drank, and I used to be up all the time. I used to go out. I was single, and so I would go out, and then I 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, then wake up, and I was a grinder. But then I realized how much less effective you are. You're foggy, you're dragging. And I started going to bed a few years ago, 9:30, man. And I'm literally, my eyes are shut and I'm sleeping by 10 at the very latest, like actually asleep.
Yep.
And get up at 5 o'clock the next morning. I'm feeling like I'm spry. I'm jumping out of bed.
Yep.
Let's go. Let's do this.
I love it, man. For those of you listening live here with us, give us a little like, give us some love, say hello, let us know you're here, and feel free to ask any questions. I'll relay them to David here. So
I need your emotions right now. I need some feelings. Give me some hearts or loves or likes or
there we go. We need some vanity metrics real quick to boost our egos. Love it. So tell us about the Lighthouse Method, man. How is that? What are you doing to help recruiting agencies? What do you kind of believe in now when it comes to the digital marketing? How are you helping?
Yeah, so the Lighthouse Method was really I follow Eugene Schwartz's, he came with the breakthrough advertising, and there he talks about the stage of sophistication in a market. You can call it red ocean, blue ocean, but really, when market first starts, it's fairly new, and you can make bold claims, and people believe you, and that's it, right? And then eventually, you get a sophisticated market, more and more people come in, they're all saying the same things, and then you have to have a mechanism. Right. And so that's what I do with Lighthouse Method. I just basically took marketing principles from outside the industry, sales marketing principles, and just added my own spin to it, called it the Lighthouse Method. Been much the same way I teach, other recruiters, when you're going out there, make an offer, like productize what you do and give it a spin and call it like have a new thesis or mechanism, et cetera. And then sell that. Not just how great you are, because everybody's telling how great they are. Right. And that's how you can work in a red ocean environment. And so the Lighthouse Method came from that. And that was really, that really helped catapult me. Much like your method, right? It's we have like a methodology that you can write, that you hang your hat on. It gives you a lot of legitimacy, especially when people see it works, right? Right. But as far as Lighthouse Method, it really comes down to highlighting the pain of your prospects. It's just like, knowing that, your prospects, sure, they're frustrated because they can't find candidates. Great. But what really sticks in their craw, like in the SAP space, for example, right? An SAP director might be frustrated because they can't find candidates. That's kind of lame. Or instead of saying that, I would say, I help SAP directors who are frustrated because they can't find talent on the market that they desperately need to implement their projects. So they're going to go back to the Accentures of the world and overpay for junior consultants to come in and train on their dime. Now, I've basically said the same thing as can't find good candidates. But what will tell an SAP director between those two recruiters, right? A director, hearing both of those statements would say, the second one, that guy knows what he's talking about, because that guy that sounds like what I complain about.
Right.
Right. And
Right.
directors to the bar and say, I can't find good quality can. It's like, God, the Accenture, they're overcharging me for these junior consultants. And so when you speak of their language and the pain they feel, right? And it's like when you say, like, I have a relevant message, and
Mm-hmm.
then being omnipresent, being able to get that message out to your entire audience. And from
Yeah.
there, figure out like what are the 1 or 2 or 3% that are feeling the pain in that moment, and let's get them on the phone and talk to them and
Right.
close them. And that's basically, so in a lot of ways, really it's the interdependence between that broad marketing that you're doing,
Right.
you put your message out there, and then prospecting, finding those people that are 1 or 2 or 3% that are in pain, and then getting them into a seamless sales, like an actual real deal sales process,
Right.
step by step to get them all the way to the close. And that is what I found, which you probably found the same thing. It's sorely lacking in the industry.
Oh yeah.
It's almost non-existent.
Well, I think that's the challenge because everybody's used to like that push method where it's like everything's outbound. So you're not really in control of the sales process when you're making an outbound call. You're kind of at the mercy of who picks up and then how long are you going to convince them to stay on the phone with you versus somebody setting an appointment on your calendar and you going, hey, here's what we're going to discuss on this call. I think that puts you in a completely different position of power where it is an actual legitimate sales process.
Oh, it does. It does. But not to say that outbound is good, because I'm also a fan of outbound too. It's just distribution, just like an ad, or anything else. But I think a lot of it too is the interdependence between sales and marketing. So what do you mean by that? Is people think of sales and marketing as two separate things, right? I want to market, put all my collateral out there, but then sales process, I get them on the phone, and then I run them through that. They're not separate and they're interdependent. So for example, like I talk a lot about the 7-hour rule in sales, right? You want to clock 7 hours with somebody, like it's an average rule of thumb. It's not really the exact time, but the more time you spend with somebody, or they think about you, or they talk about you, or they see your stuff, the more trust they have in you. So I want to clock as much time. So even if I'm outbound, even if I reach out over LinkedIn, email, whatever, and they say, okay, let's have a chat. Then before the chat, what most recruiters do is at most they'll send a confirmation, and that's it, if that. As opposed to before the call, I'm gonna say, hey Bob, thank you for your time, or thank you for booking your call or agreeing to talk. Hey, we're speaking about this and this and this, and if I can help you, I'll tell you exactly how I can. And if not, be pointed in the right direction. Wow, but before a call, make sure you take a look at some of this content, and I'll throw out an offer sheet. I'll throw out maybe a video, put it all into an email, and just show this prospect that, oh my God, they're way different than most other recruiters I talk to, because the recruiters don't do that,
Right.
And so that's when you use all your marketing collateral material actually in your sales process. Start clocking those 7 hours before you actually get on the phone.
Yeah.
I think a lot of recruiters, their training consisted of, if somebody has a need, book a phone call, start taking the job order, ask a couple zinger questions, so they think, oh gosh, they must be an expert. You throw out a couple zingers in there, and at the end of the call, you say, well, Bob, our standard fee is 30%. And then Bob says, well, we typically pay 15%. And then what you do is you meet in the middle at 20.
In the middle, yeah.
Yeah, and that's it. And that's not a sales process, right?
Right. No, I love that, man. That's really good stuff right there. And I think you hit the nail on the head that there's so much opportunity, for those that are listening, having implemented some of this stuff, like you said, before the sales call, sharing collateral, just because you're showing up different. And I think that's what a lot of people miss. Like nowadays, it's not, you could be the best recruiter in town, but there's people with this digital marketing that are coming up and will straight out beat you because they're showing up differently. And they can't even recruit at the same level as you can. They can just market better than you, and communicate. And there's a lot of opportunity to do that because it's so much of it is like you get on the phone and what do they know you from any other recruiter that's reached out to them.
And I say this a lot, is that there's, when recruiters sell, they typically sell on this. They sell on their authority, right? Everybody talks about authority in the industry.
Yep.
So I've got 20 years experience. I'm part of this network. I'm top echelon and MSRA and whatever. We have combined 30 years or blah, 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 right? And so those things are good. But what I find a lot is that obviously prospects don't care about that. They care about themselves.
Yep.
So hook them and talk about the pain, get them on a call. And then what I found is that then once you get in there, as you book a call, then it's time to flash the badge. Basically, it's like, okay, here's my authority, which is why on my calls, I even say before you get on a call and you do your rapport and you do all that, do your report from there to this. Hey, Bob, before we get into this, just for some context, let me share with you a bit about who we are, what we do. And then you list out, we do this, 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 we do this. And we just lay everything out as possible to kind of flash your badge, say, hey, buddy, I'm an expert. And then you can go to selling. And what I find is that if you lead with that, everybody leads with that, and you don't sound any different than any other recruiter. So lead with the hook, get them on the phone, get them hooked in, and then flash a badge, and then start selling. I mean, there's a lot more nuance to it, but that's kind of
of course.
basic.
But I think a big point you make there, and I always talk about it, is that people don't want to be sold through content. You sell on the phone, you use the content to pique the interest, and I think that's where like you're saying, nobody really gives a shit like about you. They want to know what you can do for them and what's in it for them. And so as people, I think people think of marketing, they think of promotion. How am I going to promote myself? How am I going to tell you why you need to work with me, rather than, like you've stated, hey, it's about digging into the pain. When you can dig into the pain, there's a time and place to sell and build that authority, but that time is usually not when you're, you don't need to say, hey, I'm the best at so-and-so. That's not going to attract people to you. I think it's the ability to really connect with them, like you're saying. Tap into the pain.
And and there's also, and there's a time and place for that for sure. Although one thing, there is there's a bit of a quandary there sometimes, because what I also found that, you're a lot of times when you're selling, a lot of selling is like giving the person epiphany moments.
Yep.
And the one thing I do realize at times is that when you have, in the sales process, you want to give them epiphany moments, kind of teach them how things relate. For example, well, here's a small example. I always loved asking clients, hey, or prospects, you ever find it weird when the recruiter always represents the candidate? You're the one footing the bill.
Mm-hmm.
Why that is, right? It's because the incentives are reversed, or they're completely set in the wrong direction. Right. They're incentivized to, and of course I can go down the whole argument, but like that's one example. And so you can't have to strike a balance between, you don't want to sell too much in your content, but as you get people in though, what I found is that if all their epiphany moments are on the sales call, a lot of times they got to go back and process it before they're willing to pull the trigger. And so it's one of those things where camera just froze, I have to fix it. But it's one of those things where, you got to try to find out how much can I also how many epiphany moments can I get in with them before the actual sales call itself? So that way, because one thing that's really hard is when you're trying to explain too much stuff to them on a sales call, it can kind of kill the call sometimes,
Yep. It's kind of like handling the objections almost, and giving those epiphanies with your content beforehand. Yeah, totally following that one. That's good stuff. Because I mean, it's the same thing. Like you handle an objection on, calls for what you and I are doing. It's the same exact thing. Sometimes they want to go back, and that's where you get, well, let me think about this, that, or the other, so that's good stuff. What have you found? I mean, just curious, are you doing much like paid advertisement to try to drive your brand, or is most of your stuff just organic outreach?
It's been organic outreach lately. So I've always been a big fan of paid advertising. Obviously right now I'm not doing any because of Christmas and ad costs are through the roof right now. But now I'm a big fan of advertising. I think though that, really in terms of the more sophisticated the buyer, the more advertising should be about more like value and education and top of mind awareness, as opposed to the selling. It's kind of like a lead magnet. The more sophisticated the buyer, the less likely they are to download the top hiring mistakes that you're making. I don't know if a CTO out there is going to download that, but but that's why your recruiters download all the lead magnets. Because not that sophisticated. I'm joking, recruiters, but not really. So I find advertising is great for like brand awareness, and that really, I'll tell you what, people say it doesn't work. One of the biggest clients I got in recent memory on the recruiting side, it was a CTO of this kind of like a mid-sized ish boutique. It's an older company that based out of England. And he reached out to me on a Sunday morning on LinkedIn because he saw some ads of mine. He was being retargeted, saw some content, went down there about some videos of his, or it was Canada videos, and just really resonated with me. And a couple months later, we signed a contract. And so, I always find that most leads kind of come from, you still have to do some outbound and go out there and get them,
Yep.
but at the same time, even when you've got marked content out there, people just they absorb it over time, and over time, it's like the billboard effect. If you drive the same route on a highway every day, you see a billboard on the side of a road. It's kind of burned into your brain after like a
Right.
year, 2 years, whatever. Even it might be just that billboard, but it's
Right.
just burned into the brain. You see it every single day. And you can have the same
Yeah.
effects with your market.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Such a good point. And I think time is a key thing, right? Because we're in this world now. Like if you wanted to order some toilet paper, you could have some toilet paper on your doorstep, from Amazon tomorrow. Maybe not today because of the virus and everybody gets freaked out about that shit. But, when it comes to building a brand, I think that's how society is. It's like, okay, well, I decided I'm going to go online marketing now. I've doing it for 2 weeks. I've been putting content out, but nobody's responding to me. Like, what do you have to say about that? What do you think about time and building the brand and all that?
Well, it's kind of like, well, all right, I made 100 cold calls, no one called me back. This cold calling thing doesn't work.
Right.
Well, maybe not. I mean, figure it out. Like some people like I'll have a technique, or I'll tell somebody to do something. They'll say, I did it twice, I didn't get a call back, or I did it twice, and I got 2 callbacks. Well, both of them are bunk answers, right? It doesn't matter because it's a small sample size. You need
Right.
to a long enough time period. And generally speaking, the farther away from the sale it is, the more numbers you need, right? So on a
Mm-hmm.
closing call, you're not going to do 1,000 closing calls before you make any adjustments. Do 10 or 20 closing calls and then make adjustments. But when it comes to voicemails, or it comes to LinkedIn email messages, or even further up the chain, when it comes to like your kind of overall content strategy, you need more numbers, more time, more data to make good decisions. But yeah, I mean, you're right. It is there is something to be said about content. Look, uh, here's a good example. People talk about Facebook advertising. Well, my mark's on Facebook. Well, yeah, they are, because all the old people are on Facebook at this point. The
Right.
young people are on TikTok, or the FaceTube, or the UTix, or whatever the kids are doing nowadays with their snap books.
Right.
Anyway, but they're on Facebook, right? Now, for those of you who say, well, my mark's on a Facebook. Okay. Um, I see on a regular basis ads from SAP on the website. Do you know who SAP targets? CIOs, CTOs, CEOs, right? I see
Right.
ads from Oracle. I see, like, they know that this is a cheap place to get in front of the eyeballs of the target market. While LinkedIn is charging them an arm and a leg, they can go and get a lot more eyeballs on a place where there's not that many people advertising towards those CEOs because they're a little bit harder to find. So they're there. They're
Right.
there. And look, and SAP is not in the business of losing money.
Right.
They know
100%.
what they're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I always encourage people, like, people have these kind of like frameworks in their head around the platforms. Like, hey, it's very like black and white. Like, hey, LinkedIn, that's for business. Facebook is for personal, Instagram, personal, where I think it's just a place to meet somebody. They're there 100%. It's just
Oh,
find
100%.
a message to meet them and a process to, get them to engage with you.
Well, what I found is that you get a lot of people that have this misconception. They say, well, no one wants me to contact them on Facebook. And well, yeah, of course not. You're going to go connect with a CEO, or if you can find them. But on LinkedIn, it's kind of expected, right? You connect with
Right.
somebody, you message them, they got their title there. But if you can retarget them or upload a list of personal email addresses or whatever to Facebook,
Yep.
and then just simply run content that might be valuable to them, but and same thing at any other platform. You just go where those people are at. I mean, look, in 10 years, the kids will be on some other platform, and all us old fogies will be TikToking around doing dance videos or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's just is what it is, man.
Yep.
Times change. There was a time when I started in this business where I was told, no matter whatever you do not ever email a resume, ever.
Right.
That was a rule of my first firm. Never email resumes, ever. Can you believe that?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's crazy. I mean, the times are way, but the thing I think that's crazy is there's people that'll still operate off of that learning from 20 years ago that was taught, you know?
Yeah, and look, there's some good, so there's still some good stuff out there for sure. I mean, I've
Oh,
I've
100%.
seen
Yeah.
people that spend all day long online and they make a single call and they thought they worked really hard. Well, no, they didn't really move the ball down the field. It's kind of a
Right.
combination of both. And there's still some good stuff out there. But yeah, it is, what I've found who has really good sales process that I learned a lot from that I brought into my own training was I was looking at sales processes or sales and marketing methodologies that SaaS companies use.
Mm-hmm.
Because think about it, there's a SaaS company out there. Maybe they sell AR invoicing systems to dentists, right? Something like fairly niched. And they have this product. They get a couple users on it, and then all of a sudden they get $1 million in funding, right? From some VC, some microfunding out there. They get $1 million in funding. They hire a team. Now they got a run rate, and they got an investor on their ass, just like, where are you at? Where are you at? Where are you at? Where are you at? And they got to snake, and they don't have time to go through some 20-year-old training and do a bunch of cold calls. They got to get their shit down fast. And
Right.
so they develop very solid sales and market, because these investors will also bring in the top dogs, like top trainer. They want this company to succeed.
Right.
And what I found is that if I go look at the sales process, these SaaS companies, these service SaaS companies, really solid, and it really fits very well into our own sales process that we're not using. So I would say for recruiters, if you want to really study some good sales processes, take a look at certain SaaS companies. They got some of the best sales and marketing processes and methodologies out there, and go and just figure out, how do I copy this and use it for my practice?
It's good stuff right there, man. Great insight. Going back a step here, as you're talking about, markets hanging out on Facebook, we're running this meeting here through Zoom, and I always share this on one of my webinars and trainings, but my buddy is employee number 5 at Zoom.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And, they did their IPO last year. This guy is worth more than, I don't even know, but he's got a fat ass pad out here in the Bay Area. Like it's monstrous. I think he's a $100 million guy, but my point is like, this is a guy I see every single day on Facebook and on Instagram. And if you were going to be trying to work your way into Zoom and be the recruiter for account executives for them, for example, that's who he manages. He's your guy, hanging out there all the time, every single day. He's spending time. So I always go back. I just want to hit on that because I think people have a lot of those stories in there that like they're just not on Facebook. So
100%. Yeah. Just because your dad's a CFO and your dad doesn't like Facebook doesn't mean that all CFOs don't like Facebook, right? It's a dumb way to look at it. It was Gary Vee say, it's a focus group of one, right? It's not a very good focus group. So and at the end of the day, and advertising on there is relatively cheap, but look, there's so many different avenues for you to get your message out there. You're going to be social media advertising, just the content, again, phone and email and LinkedIn. I saw one of the comments here about.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you that one.
Yeah, is it the digital outreach versus get on the phone and mix everything? Like I will use smoke signals if I have to. There was so actually there's a I can't find it here, but all right. So here's an example. Here's how all these different things can mix and work. So are you familiar with Steven Larson?
Yeah, I've heard the name. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's ClickFunnels, Russell Brunson grad. So I went to a couple of the funnel hackathons up in Idaho with ClickFunnels, right? Like way back when kind of first started in that digital marketing journey. And so Steven Larson, and then while he was still working for Russell, for those folks who don't know, he's a digital marketer, and now he's kind of got independent, and he has a like a summit, or not summit, but like a big, like a training thing called OfferMind, right? So the last couple months, I've been getting packages in the mail, actual physical packages, right? And on the package, there'll be a QR code, right? Sticker, and it'll say, scan before you open. And I go scan it, and as soon as I scan it, it pops up as landing page with a video. Hey guys, hope you enjoy your gift, and then open it up, and it's like, and it's a little stupid thing, like like a little piggy bank, one of them was a whoopee
Right.
cushion, little stupid things like that, but it got my attention. And look, and that's, if that, in your market, pick, 100 target prospects, 50 target prospects, whatever, and go mail them stuff. I mean, so do little mailers, get on the
Yep.
radar screen. So
Little
it's like
Dream
that
100 action.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Dream 100. It's
Yep.
using all those methods of phone, email, direct mail, smoke signals, handwritten cards. If you go to handwritten, I think without the Y, but you can send a card for a few bucks that looks like it's handwritten, looks like it's hand stamped from you with your message on it. You can pick the handwriting and you just do it online, boom, sent off, and you're out there sending handwritten
Yep.
cards. Remember, other recruiters aren't doing that, right? So it's
Yep.
just those there's little things that I think that that you can do to get on the radar screen, because or if you want, you could be one of the 20 voicemails that they deleted from their voicemail that week. That's cool too.
Yeah. 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 Well, I think that's, I mean, going into that, I mean, I don't think either one of us would argue that the game's really won on the phone. I think it's just how you're going to get to that phone call that there's the opportunity for the shift.
And even if you do make phone calls, like what I found is that even let's say you have a message sequence going out, you have like LinkedIn, email, whatever, and then you have say a phone call in there, right?
Yep.
Even if you got to make phone calls, or a voicemail drop is the way you want to do it, but even then you get a voicemail and the standing line of, "Hi, this is David Patterson from the Kinetic Group. The purpose of my call is," and then delete. So we've been playing with this technique called the frictionless voicemail. Have you heard of this one?
No.
It's so the frictionless voicemail is one where when you listen to voicemail and you think about it, and somebody says, "Hey, this is David Patterson, Kinetic Group. Give me a call back at," and then they got to get a pen, write the number. It's like a kind of a pain in the ass. This is a fucking recruiter. Delete,
Right.
right? A lot of friction there. So the frictionless voicemail, the theory is one's a pattern interrupt, right? So pattern interrupt, get them to be curious about what you're talking about, eliminate all friction, right? The normal friction, get them curious about something else beyond just giving you a call back. So and I didn't make the technique up. We just been using it in our training,
Mm-hmm.
and we've been trying it out, and it's working pretty well. So what happens is but it has a 0% callback ratio. That's great, is what it is. But it massively improves your reply rate. So let's say you sent an email or LinkedIn message, whatever, with value or whatever your thing is.
Right.
You call the voicemail and says, "Hey, Bob, David here. Hey, don't call me back. But real quick, I just sent you an email and it's about this, or we do this. Look, if
Right.
this resonates, reply back. Happy to jump on the phone with you for a few minutes and see if this resonates," or whatever you say. But
Yep.
the fact that you say, "Hey, Bob, David here, don't call me back."
Right. Their guards
Or even say
immediately. Yeah.
yeah, before even say the company or my last name, like, hey, Bob, David here, don't call me back. I just sent you an email. And it's like just that alone, and it gets them curious about looking at the email. So now there's no friction in terms of not writing your number down, but they've invested time
Yep.
and what's that mean? And so little things like that, doing things that are different,
Yep. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that the other thing too is if you're doing the digital and you are still doing, I mean, let's take a step back. The bottom line is no matter where you're at in your business, you got to do whatever it takes to get to where you want to go. Right.
Yeah.
There's that conversation too. But I think that the bigger thing though is if you are doing that, using the strategy like that, like there should be more awareness too if you're doing your digital stuff right too. There's a subconscious awareness of like, oh yeah, I've seen this David guy. I've seen him on LinkedIn. I've seen him on the email. And that makes that a little bit more. So you're at least just not another guy in town. But I love that approach. Josh, you got to drop that into your Loxo right there, man. You got to try some of that frictionless voicemail in your Loxo campaign.
It works pretty well, man. We've again, I'm not the biggest fan of doing cold calls, but I like it when you do a cold call, like say or warm call, whatever you want to call it, but
Right.
it's the middle of a sequence and it just kind of ramps things up a little bit. But yeah, it's like doing whatever is different. Again, smoke signals if you have to. I mean,
Right.
direct mail, anything. I mean, there's even or even using like landing pages in your, like, for example, one thing that we've done is we'll send. So for example, let's say you use ClickFunnels or whatever sort of landing page building software, or if you have buy a cheap one in AppSumo, create a sample landing page. Say, okay, here's what we do for our clients, and go get their assets from their site, videos, pictures, and just create like a landing page. And so when you're reaching out to your prospects, say, hey, I just want to give you an example of what we do for every single client. We create a lander like this for you, right? Something like that. There's little things like that I think will help set you apart. Heck, even little things like, even when you're talking to a prospect, how can you set yourself apart? Say, hey, tell you what, let me prove worth. I will call you back in 5 minutes. I'll pitch the job back to you so you can see exactly what I sound like. No recruiter is going to do that in a million years.
Right.
Yep.
No, that's good stuff, man. These are all great pointers. Great pointers. So with the whole content journey, one of the things that I really respect about you is that you're always you're just real. You know what I'm saying? You bring it, and you're authentic. And I know that for a lot of people, as they start to go down this path, online journey of putting yourself out there, you kind of get into this like, shit, like I need to make sure I'm liked first, what is your experience of just being David, being exactly who you are, and how that actually attracts people to you?
Well, I'll tell you what, if I was so worried about being liked, would be here. I mean, I still have a pretty severe speech impediment of verbal apraxia. And so when I was younger, when I was in grade school, I could barely talk, and I was bullied, and it was just a horrible thing. But I kind of got to the point where the less I cared about it, the less it came out. It's like, and so I did develop this sort of personality where if I couldn't do something, that's the thing I wanted to do. So why I got into what I do now, which is I'm a talker. I'm not like this naturally. I kind of created this thing that I am now. Now I am naturally this because I wanted it so bad. And so what happened is, and the same thing goes for, putting yourself out there, is that, if you have people that throw barbs at you, candidly speaking, I mean, well, first off, they don't know anything about you. They probably just people just like to bitch. But it's one of those things where I think the universe kind of tests you a little bit, because for me to become who I am here, I had to go through the barbs and the bullies and all that kind of jazz when I was younger. And then for me to get digital marketing and become a trainer, I had to go through again the barbs, because believe me, when I first came out, the first 6 months or so, it was brutal. I had people talking so much mad shit because I was different. Right. And I remember there's one video. I had this Facebook. There's a Facebook ad. It was a video. And I guess in that video, I was moving my shoulders a lot, or I was being very animated. And I got a whole stream of comments of people making fun of my shoulders. It was the weirdest thing. But I'll tell you what, I made a list of those recruiters, and I remember, and I know, and some of you are in my group, and I know who you are. but then it's one of those things where eventually it just stops.
Yeah.
It stops because either you ignore them. What do they say? At first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, and then they fight you, and then you win.
Right.
As I said,
Yep.
And so, anyway, kind of rambling here, but when you're putting yourself out there, you're gonna feel like, or it is like this. It's if you remember in high school and you get your new big dog shirt. I'm aging myself here. Remember Big Dog?
Top Dog. Yeah.
Yeah. And I got my new big dog shirt. I'm like, oh man, I'm looking fly. And you go to the high school and you think, man, everybody's looking at me. Everybody's like, oh, look at that guy with his new big dog shirt. Man, no one gives a shit about your big dog shirt.
Right.
No one's looking at you. No one cares. No one gives a shit. They're worried about their own thing. Same thing or you're worried about what people are thinking about you, right? When you go post up something on LinkedIn or a video or whatever, whether people give you barbs or not, honestly, no one gives a shit about you. No one does. No one cares what you have to say, who you are. So it gives you freedom to do almost whatever you want. All right. And then I start getting some traction, people start paying attention. But the cool thing is, I heard this really great advice from Russell Brunson in one of his podcasts, one of his early podcasts. He said, the best time to start going out there making content is when no one's listening. Because then you screw up, you're not doing very well, but then you get better. Then as you get better, you get an audience. By the time you get an audience, you're already kind of good. Right. And you've gotten past that troll period that everybody seems to go through.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think you make a huge point there, because I think so many people just sit into this thought of putting themselves out there, and then they're waiting for this like perfect moment or this perfect piece of content, which doesn't exist. And the only way you get good is to start sucking, start putting yourself out there and start just being bad at it, because it's like riding a bike, really. It's you have to give yourself some time to become better at it. Some of us naturally are going to be more skilled at certain parts of content than others, but yeah, I mean, you just got to be willing to go out and fail a little bit. I mean, my first video, same thing. I mean, when I did my first journey in video, like in the flooring industry, and I've got my nice, buttoned up shirt, collared, stiff as hell, like no personality, just, I mean, you want to see some good shit, go to Flooring My Life TV on YouTube, and you guys can laugh your ass off at me all day long, because that's what it was, man. I was out there, I was willing to do it. But the thing about it is, as bad as I was at that point in time, I was making a ton of money off of it too. Because exactly what you're saying, people don't really care. It's like, I was delivering good information, I just stunk at how I was delivering it, because I was trying to be so stiff and square, and definitely didn't have all the love in the world for myself.
It's kind of like this, right? It's kind of like, okay, here's a good example. And this, women won't really see this. I use these examples all the time. I'm sorry, folks, but this is just my personality. Take it or leave it. Sorry. But it's like being in a club, right? And back clubs where people used to go to have drinks together and socialize. And so
now we do that over Zoom chat, but yeah.
Yeah, back before back in the before days. So think about a club, right? Guys, single men go to a club. What do they want? They want to talk to girls.
Right.
That's all they want to do. They want to, because it's, and they're not being mean. It's just how biology works, right? And so what happens is 98% of guys don't even approach a single woman. Why? Because we are afraid, or in our heads, we don't look stupid. And the guy who actually goes and just doesn't care about looking stupid, doesn't care if he gets blown out or gets like, a boyfriend. He's just like, oh, fine, whatever. But gradually, he's becoming a different person. Starts becoming like, oh, so if I say this, or here's kind of a funny joke, or maybe if I act a little more confident, gets more, realize he doesn't die every time he gets rejected. Next thing you know, becomes really confident, starts working out, gets better clothes. The next thing you know, goes starts a company because it gets in sales. And next thing you know, and it's one of those self-development things where I think, in much like in this world here, you'll realize there's a world of opportunity out there. And you're here in this little group where you've got all these like men in the club wanting to talk to women, they never do. All these recruiters wanting to develop their own brand, but never do because they're so afraid. And you're willing to look, you're the one person willing to look stupid.
Right.
Go and do it over and over. You realize, oh, I didn't die.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, next thing you know, I'm actually kind of good at this. Next thing you know, I got a brand. Next thing you know, billings go up. And then all those other people look at you like, oh, he was always successful. She was always had this. How'd she do it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. How? Because I was willing to look like a dumbass for a good year and get good. And that's what, and I think for a lot of like, men, young men willing to look stupid for a period of time to become a better person, a business owner or a recruiter willing to look dumb for a little bit to become better. And then what happens when you become successful, people look at you and like, oh, that's overnight success. You've always had that.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think it's so good, man, because it's like, again, I go back to my own journey, and Sherry just commented about, her having a major fear of getting on video and can't stand to see herself on camera. Like, welcome to the club. I don't know anybody that really loves it, And like I said, Sherry, you want some really good inspiration, go look at my old Flooring My Life videos. They're still out there, and it's awful. I mean, it's flat out god awful. But to your point, David, it's like you buy into this process, and eventually, you start getting good. And I think you bring up another good point, the fact that you said, you go talk to a girl, you're not going to die when they reject you, but it's the same thing with your business. You go put out a piece of content that's not your best stuff, you're not going out of business. Nobody's going to say, oh man, do you see David's stuff today? You're going to go out of business. There isn't a single piece of content that's going to put you out of business. So
that's why I love that quote from Teddy Roosevelt so much, but the man in the arena. Better to be a man in the arena. It was even through defeat, dusty and bloodied, as compared to the man in the stands, right?
Right.
Watching and the audience, right? Who would you rather be? As I say, I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees, right? It's
right.
it's so, and I know people who are afraid to do this or that, and that's fine. You either gotta just gut up and just go and put something out there, because at the end of the day, you would rather be the man in the arena, bloodied and beaten and dusty, than be the one in comfort in the stands. Again, I'm butchering this quote here.
Yep.
But ultimately, there are very few willing to be the person in the arena. Are you that person? And that's, and I was never a natural at these things. You're not a natural at it, but we're here, we're doing it. We built, it's very successful businesses, both of us, on this.
Right. 100%.
And and neither of us are like Brad Pitt. Neither of us are George Clooney, Jason Momoa. Yeah, he's a sexy man.
He was on your podcast this morning, wasn't he?
I know. That's right. Yeah, that was a great podcast. But and so it's a matter of, you just have to kind of, in fact, actually you can do, by the way, this helped me out a lot, is I would and here's something you could try if you're afraid to get on video. I used to do this to get over my social anxiety, and find ways to work out of your comfort zone every day. So every day you do one thing out of your comfort zone, and almost make it to the point where if you don't do something out of your comfort zone that day, whatever it is, you're kind of uncomfortable with that.
Right.
The more you do that, the more you're willing to finally crack the seal on, let's say, a video or something like that. It could be as simple as, again, maybe not now, but like for me, it would be things like go to the mall and high five 10 people I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Just do it. You're not gonna die. Do it. So it's it could be a variety of things, right? It could be going out and meeting the 5 neighbors on this side and the 5 neighbors on this side, even though you never have met them in years because you never outside of your house. Go meet them and ask them for a cup of sugar. See what happens, right? Just do weird things like that out of your comfort zone. You realize you didn't die, and you gave somebody a good story out of it. I went to high five these 10 people in the mall. You know what happened? They had a good story. Some dude just walked up to me, high fived me. That was the weirdest thing in the world. Oh my God, what a weirdo. I gave him a good story, and it led to me being here.
Yep. Well, it's so important because when you step into that fear, that's the other side of the actual up level, right? And if you're not feeling that, like, you can play comfortable all life, you're not going to up level. But when you bust through that fear, that's when, you really surprise yourself on what you can accomplish by willing to step
up. And learn to feel like this fear feels good. Like when you, I was a skydiver for years, and that's one thing. And skydiving, like we kind of chase that rush, that adrenaline, and in a way try to condition yourself to feel that rush. That's a really good, that rush of, look, I can tell you, all the recruiters here, they're afraid of being on video. I bet there was a time when you were petrified to call your very first candidate ever in this business.
Yep. There's all in every angle.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. I remember there times way back in the day when I was first learning the business and I was making cold calls, and I would hope that I would get voicemail. And if I get somebody who picked up, I'd be like, not hang up.
Yeah. Oh, when I started doing high ticket sales, it's the same thing. I'd have people on my calendar. Like part of me was like fired up and part of me was like, God, I wouldn't mind if you didn't no show.
Yeah.
Just because I was nervous about that transformation of getting on the call and having to step in, yeah, man, it's just every angle there, but that's usually when you're feeling that. I feel like that's when you got to realize and go, all right, I got to step into this because that's where I'm going to up level. But
I'm short on time, but I do want to say this one thing. Sorry, but I will say this. I heard another great quote from Joe Rogan. Love Joe Rogan. Best podcast in the world by far. Monkeys and DMT and all this craziness, right? And jiu-jitsu. But he says, be the hero of your own movie. If the movie started and the hero woke up one day and was down on her luck or whatever happened, what would they do to make it back into the game? Be that hero of your own movie. What would the hero do?
Yeah, that's good stuff right there.
Yeah, for sure. I love Rogan.
Yeah, he's got a good one. Guys got every angle in the world covered, I feel like. Well, shoot, dude, man, thank you so much for hanging out today. I mean, we blew through that hour, over an hour mark. I know we talked about 30 or 45 minutes, but I had a feeling this is how this one would run. But
Oh yeah. Well, thank you
yeah,
for having me as well. And
yeah,
don't forget also for anybody listening to this, Donnie's also going to be on my show next week, 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific,
yep.
for all you folks in on the West Coast and on the Headhunters and Boxers Talking Smack. We may change the name to Heartthrobs and Boxers Talking Sexy.
Just depends on what happens there. Yeah, man, I'm fired up to chat with you guys next week too. But yeah, man, any, I always ask, what's one, you dropped a shit ton of value today, man. I appreciate it. What's one, kind of big piece of advice you'd give somebody that's listening to this that wants to grow their business in 2021?
You know what I would do? It's actually a book. Go read the War of Art by Steven Pressfield. And I guarantee you probably have read it or at least heard of it.
Yeah, I've heard of that one. I'm thinking of The Art of War, but it's the War of Art. There you go. Okay.
It's basically everybody's biggest obstacle is themselves, like your own worst enemy. And so it's actually how to conquer that inner demon, that inner resistance that you have.
Love it.
Most important book I've ever read in my life. I've read it probably at least a dozen times. I give the book out to friends. I read it every 6 months. It is that important. It's a very short book. You read it in an afternoon. If you know how to conquer all these fears and those things swirling around 2021, I'd say first thing to do is go read that book. Second thing you do is work with either Donnie or me, one of the two. And that's the second thing you would do. There you go.
Love it, man. Yeah, that could have opened up a rabbit hole. We could have started talking a whole little segment about mindset.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but
we have next week.
Thanks again, man. We'll have to do this again on the show, and like David said, check us out next week on his show with him and Neil, and we'll be jiving again. So everyone have a great weekend, and David, thanks for joining again, man.
Thanks everybody. All right, bye.